lot to cover here, Chris.
I know you do.
Here's the deal, everybody. This is not a case about a non-competition agreement. I want to be very clear. This is not about a non-competition agreement. Let me read some facts to you about this case. A guy named Jacob Patterson gets a job at a company called TQL, Total Quality Logistics, over 13 years ago. Works there for 13 years in that company. And then he says, I want to do something different. Now, let me bear in mind one thing. To your point about the post-employment restrictive covenants, when you get the job, they did not give him that contract until 5 months into that role. He didn't see that going in. That came to him after the fact. But let's fast forward. He says, I don't think this job is for me anymore. I want to do something different. But he knows he has that post-employment restrictive covenant. Now, that covenant, I'm going to read a little bit. Because look, I printed the stuff off and I read it because this stuff makes me furious. And if you're not furious right now, you will be. Yes. What is this competing business they say he can't do? Quote, the term competing business is any person, firm, corporation, or entity that is engaged in shipping, third-party logistics, freight brokerage, truck brokerage, or supply chain management. That is literally anything. He gets a job at a truckload company, a trucking company. That company is called PBJ Express. He goes on to that company, and this isn't really competing necessarily with TQL because it's not a brokerage company. It's a shipping company, trucking company. They sue him, and they threaten to sue his new company. This man is married with 5 children, and his only goal is to provide for his family. But TQL will have none of that. Yeah. Now, let me talk about TQL's non-competition agreement. This contract has been litigated over and over and over, and TQL loses very often. However, under the laws of the state of Ohio, they can remake the contract by the judge. And so that contract becomes enforceable. In this context, only TQL can recover their attorney's fees when they sue on this stuff. The person who gets sued can't do it. Now, this is the part that I want to focus on. This is the part that really matters. This is the heart of the case of tortious interference with a prospective business arrangement. Jacob says, I can't work for this trucking company anymore. I have to leave. He starts talking to a company called USI. It's an insurance services company. And he has a pathway to a job. He has a pathway to a job. But then what happens is a phone call by Chris Brown, allegedly Chris Brown, not the Chris Brown you hate already, a different Chris Brown you'll likely hate soon after this.
Not the pop star Chris Brown.
Anyways. Not the pop star Chris Brown, but someone else you might not like after you hear this. Chris Brown calls, allegedly, based on this complaint, calls the senior leadership team of USI, one of their providers for insurance, and says, if you hire this guy, it's not going to go well. Whether that's a threat to pull the business or whether that's a threat to say, we're going to make it difficult for you. And that is why USI allegedly in this complaint says, we are not going to proceed any further with you, Jacob. A man who has spent his career helping people safely move freight on time and undamaged cannot find a job because a $7 billion company with a B makes it so you can't find a job. So yes, we do understand that non-competes or contracts, you should understand when you sign them. You should do that. But if you are following what TQL is doing here, they are trying to punish somebody for trying to better their lives. 5 kids, a wife. It is absolutely horrifying that a company like TQL would do this. I would say this. I'm not the lawyer for any of these people involved, but if my son, when he gets into the time of trying to find a job, as I have an opportunity to work with TQL, my advice to him is do not work for that company. Yeah. Do not spend a minute with a company that would try to screw you from providing from your kids at a completely separate business. This Chris Brown, if this is accurate, I cannot wait to read the depositions, to look at the interrogatories and see what it is that they actually did, what the text messages say. You should be angry about this. I posted about non-competition agreements last week. I had over 40,000 engagements, but that doesn't matter. I had dozens of people who reached out to me and said how these things have ruined their lives. What Steve Cox and Steve Logistics with the end non-compete are talking about is ending these types of predatory practices. What TQL wants to do, they don't want you to just work for them. They want you to be part of them. And if you choose not to be, they will try to destroy you. And that is absurd. So my thoughts on the article and the story is pretty interesting. I read a little bit. I enjoyed the complaint. That's where we are.